All right, everybody. We've been getting some emails and requests asking how to get a teaching job outside the United States or to teach English. So that's what this video is for. If you want to try and get a job teaching English outside of the US, specifically in Japan, well, this video is meant for you. But we're also going to give you some insight as to what you may be getting yourself into. A lot of foreign teachers come to Japan and they have these high expectations. A lot of it is because of the myths that they've heard about Japanese students and schools and teachers, and or not necessarily Japan, but Asia as a whole. And when they get here, they find out that most of their myths have been crushed. Now, there's two different kinds of ways to get a job. Okay, and we'll put the web pages and all the information up on the video and on our homepage, www.bluehill-esl.com. And as we learn any new information to get jobs in Japan, we'll post them. We'll post them to our homepage and keep you updated. So check the homepage every once in a while, just to see if any new information is there. Well, let's get into it. The first thing is, once you arrive, if you go through a program, any kind of program, the program will most likely place you at a school, junior high or at a high school. You will probably have no choice in that matter. So they're all pretty much the same, so my advice would be to go ahead and accept the position. If you're working at an English school, which would most likely be owned by a Japanese person, you'll be working at that school. That will be your one main location. Some of the problems you may find that we all do, I did, and everyone in my group, which were about 200 other English teachers, we all found the same mistakes, and we all had to help each other cope with those mistakes or problems. And a lot of the foreign English teachers who had been here a while, they also gave us a lot of, I would say, really good advice how to cope with those problems of dealing with teaching English in Japan. The first is the textbook. Now, unfortunately, the textbooks are all written, printed, published by a Japanese company, by a Japanese office. That's all. Most, if not all, educated foreigners, that would actually sound ridiculous. How can a Japanese person teach you English when they themselves are not fluent in the language? But unfortunately in Japan, for some reason, that makes sense, supporting a Japanese company. But you can open to any page in the textbooks, the ones used in schools, the ones used at English schools, and you won't really even have to look for it, but you'll see it loaded with mistakes, grammatical errors. The most common mistakes would be word usage. The one thing Japanese don't know and they never want to know is how to use certain words and phrases. And as you know, here's a good example in one of the textbooks. It says they're trying to teach the phrase seconds, like may I have seconds. But I want you to think, in what context do you use seconds? If you were at your friend's house eating dinner, would you ask your friend for seconds? Or would you just say, can I get some more of that? Or may I have some more? Or depending on the situation, you most likely wouldn't use that. But there's a lot. And you'll see them, and you'll point, most likely, like everyone else, you try to point them out to the Japanese teacher, and you will be very much ignored, because the Japanese teachers stop improving their English once they get their teacher's license. They don't try and they don't want to. Although when you arrive, if you're team teaching, which means you'll be in the same classroom as a Japanese teacher, the Japanese teacher will usually say to you, oh, please help me with my English, or help me to improve my English. Now, for communication skills, Japanese teachers have great communication skills. You'll be able to talk to them if you have problems, concerns, questions, even just about living in Japan. they can help you. Their communication skills are usually very good. But communication skills and teaching are actually quite different. They're not by no means perfect. When you're talking to your Japanese teacher one-on-one, you'll notice, and like as I said, you don't really have to look for it. You'll notice a lot of the grammatical errors, but the communication is getting through. Japanese also will refuse you. A lot of us came with these great ideas like, oh yeah, I'm going to really teach them English, and I'm going to help these students and make friends in America or England, Canada, Australia, and you get all pumped up to come, and then it's usually crushed within 3 months by the Japanese English teacher. Although when you arrive, if you're team teaching, a lot of them will say, please help me with my English. By no means do they mean it. They don't mean that. They like to say it because it's kind of like, it's like written in their teacher's manual that they must say it because it's the right thing to say. But you'll notice after about 2 or 3 months, they didn't mean one word of it. Because in the beginning, they'll probably ask you, be kind. Oh, can you check my English on this worksheet? And can you do this? And can you check this? But as I said, their actual English skill is probably equal to, say, an elementary school student, a native speaker. But of course, they don't want to hear that. So when you arrive, a lot of us, you say, oh, wow, your English skills are good. But let's just be nice because you want to try and create a good working atmosphere with your new Japanese teacher. However, they seem to tend to believe it, which is a big mistake. So for me, it took about 2 or 3 months after I was correcting their English, and their spelling errors are just, they're incredible. After a while, after say 2 or 3 months, they started giving me the lesson plan, say 10, 15 minutes before the class. That way you have no time to look it over for mistakes. And when I came to Japan, a lot of people said, oh, Japanese don't like to be embarrassed in front of. But I think it would be safe to say no one on the planet, regardless of country and culture, likes to be embarrassed in front of anyone. I mean, think about it. Do you enjoy being embarrassed in front of your peers, your family, your husband, wife, anyone for that matter? And of course, you don't want to be embarrassed in front of your students or your staff if you happen to be a manager or a boss. That kind of goes without saying. But in Japan, when you're teaching, the Japanese English teachers do about 95% of the work of embarrassing themselves because, I'm standing there, we're all standing there, we're just kind of shaking our head going, I have no idea what they're teaching and why they're teaching that nonsense. But you don't have a say in that matter. In fact, it was so bad that when all of the foreigner teachers, which was about 30 in my area, had a meeting, I didn't say anything for the first 15 minutes because I felt bad. And I said, okay, maybe I'm the only one who has really horrible English teachers. But then after about 10, 15 minutes, some of the other first year foreign teachers, and not just Americans, it was Americans, British, Australians, Canadians, and they all said they started sharing their experience teaching English. And after a while, I said, wow, I actually feel relieved. I'm not the only one in this horrible environment of pretty much confirming the bad English the Japanese teachers are teaching and just constantly on a daily basis listening to my native language be completely butchered by this teacher. And I said, I'm constantly wondering, why are you teaching them that? A junior high school student would not say that, first of all, and no one would actually say that to a junior high school student. But the more you try to help them, as I said, the more you'd have better luck speaking to a brick wall because you're just wasting your breath. Japanese have been teaching, all of them have been teaching the exact same way for 20, 30 years, and not one of them actually thinks about, at graduation, out of 600 students, not one can speak English. the Japanese do not believe in actually looking at and making any kind of those type of observations. In their minds, the students have passed their test. Most of the time, the grades are not actually earned, they're just given to the students so they can advance to the next grade. And the Japanese teachers believe they have done their job. But you'll find out one student would be able to carry on even a 30-second conversation with you. And after a while, you just think, you know what? The advice given to me is you're not going to win. You're not going to win the argument or the debate, so just give up. Technically, the class does belong to the Japanese teacher. I, as the native English-speaking teacher, is just the assistant. I have no say-so with the class. And again, to an educated person, it would appear that it's kind of like saying the chief of surgery is sitting in the corner watching the intern perform the surgery, and the chief has no power to tell the intern that he's slowly killing the patient. It's kind of the same, because that's how you feel. You know, you feel like Japanese really have their own idea of what English is, and it's nothing like a native speaker. And you'll also find that, yes, Japan is inundated with Americans, Canadians, Australians, and British English teachers, which would actually seem like a wonderful idea. The problem is it actually confuses the students because you have certain phrases and terminologies that are used in one country that's not used in another. And it does confuse the students. And you'll find also that a lot of times the class is extremely boring. It's so boring that before I even arrived, the foreign teachers had coined a phrase called human tape recorder. And it's really mind-numbing. It's like turn your brain off and stand there like a statue. And a human tape recorder, really, you're standing in front of the class, you're reading a passage out of their textbook, the students are listening to you, then you read it again, sentence by sentence, and the students repeat after you. And yes, it does sound like a room full of parrots repeating after you. For some odd reason, Japanese teachers believe that this helps students with their pronunciation, which, to an educated person, it does no such thing. After you finish reading all that, and the students finish repeating after you, you'll find out very quickly that I like red comes out from the Japanese students as I like reddo, which means it doesn't help. I even suggested, why don't you let me teach them some phonics, like AI is A sound, AY is A. The Japanese teachers quickly dismissed that idea, saying it was a waste of time. And I said, wow, phonics is a waste of time. I don't think I've ever heard that from a certified teacher before, but unfortunately I did. And every class, you'll always get some teachers who want to sing a song. And the only two groups Japanese know are the Beatles and the Carpenters, which are, in their day, made great music. Unfortunately, they haven't made music in over 50 years, and it's only one genre, which it really doesn't matter, but it does, not to me as a teacher, but to the students. Once the student is in junior high, they've already decided pretty much what genre they like. And the students won't sing. They'll stand there and pretend to sing, or they'll sing under their breath, but they're not really singing. And every day, I felt so bad for the students because another way the teachers really bore the students are they ask the same questions every single day. How's the weather? Now that's, to me, and to every other foreign teacher, that's one of the most silliest questions you could ask. What do you mean, how's the weather? Look out the window. You have two eyes. Why are you asking me? And the students are supposed to say it's sunny. But in a sense, you really haven't answered the question. It's sunny all year round. Is it cold? Is it hot? So you haven't really answered the question. And The other question, which was always funny too, is what's the date today? I'm like, it's written on the chalkboard. So those two questions would most likely be answered with some type of sarcasm if they were asked to a native speaker. But for Japanese, they actually believe that that is communication. And as I said, on a daily basis, you watch the Japanese teachers completely butcher the English language, and you think, why am I here and I can't tell these students? And the students, unfortunately, as well as in Japan, students are strictly forbidden to challenge a teacher or ask any probing questions which may make the teacher look or feel embarrassed. So that means the students will never go to you or even in the class or go to you individually and ask you about English. They won't. They will accept 100% everything the Japanese English teacher has taught them. And a lot of times the teachers will ask you to make up a game. The games are incredibly useless. All you're doing is you're trying to make up some ridiculous game where the students are constantly repeating and answering pretty much the same question or grammatical structure, like can you swim? If you say yes, you take the card. If you say no, then I go to the next person. Can you dance? Yes, I can. Oh, I have to give you the card. So for 50 minutes, 20 minutes, the students are just repeating can you. And at the end of the class, not one of the students would be able to make a question or a sentence or any type of communication, not even a little bit. Now, some of you may be asking, whoa, why am I telling you all of this and really bringing you down or making you get off the idea of teaching English in Japan? That's not my goal. My goal is to tell you the truth. I am not recruiting for anyone, therefore I can tell you the truth. If I were a recruiter, then yes, obviously there are things I can't or probably would not be allowed to tell you. Now the upside to teaching in Japan is this. Well, I can only speak for Americans since I am American. If you are American, you will be exempt from the U.S. taxes. They will tell you the 2 forms you need to file. And yes, you do need to file your taxes. Don't do anything crazy like, oh, I'm not in America, I don't have to. No, you still have to file taxes. But they will tell you, depending on the program or school that you work at, or some of the Americans in your area will tell you the forms to file, but you are exempt from taxes up to $70,000 US, which you won't even make half of that here. But the money you do make in Japan is all yours. The living conditions are usually fantastic. The schools will usually provide you a very nice, Japanese apartments are just not large like say in America, but that you can adjust to. But the living conditions are usually very clean, very nice, and you will have your neighbors will be really nice to you. So that will actually make you feel good at going home. Some other things that you're going to enjoy are the students. The students are incredibly funny. You're going to absolutely love the students. Even though they can't speak any English, the one way I learned how to read and speak Japanese is students wear uniforms and their last name is written on their uniform. If you practice reading the kids' names, it will help you learn and read some Japanese kanji. Also, you don't really have to worry about speaking Japanese. As I said, the English teachers can help you do anything. There are lots of foreigners in the area, which some of them create a small group where you can help, where you can get some help or advice if you need it. So that will not even be a problem. In the classroom, it's usually so boring, especially when you're doing the human tape recorder, that you're going to find yourself wanting to yawn a few times because it's so boring. The advice that I was giving and all the foreign teachers in my area we're given. When you feel like yawning, hold the textbook up like this. Yawn, and then slowly lower the textbook and continue reading. That way the students won't see that you're yawning. And believe it or not, that is the advice I was given from foreign teachers. And they didn't say, if you want to yawn, they said, when you want to yawn. Means you're definitely going to yawn in the classroom. It's so boring. Some other good things, not necessarily about teaching in Japan. When my first year was at near the end, and I was considering renewing for another year and signing the contract, some of the best advice I got was from some of the foreign teachers who had been here a lot longer than I had. And what they said was, don't focus or concentrate on your job. If you do, you're going to get frustrated and you will leave Japan, which is not, it won't be good for you or for anyone else for you to come for 1 year. So instead, they said, focus on everything you do outside of the classroom. Meaning, if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, some of the restaurants you want to try. And one of the best things that was for me was traveling. Make some trips around Asia. Think about it. Using Japan as your base, Japan to Korea, Japan to Singapore, Japan to Thailand, Japan to Taiwan. It's much cheaper than the United States to Taiwan, United States to Singapore. So if you use Japan as your base, you can travel and get to a lot of other Asian countries and have some wonderful, wonderful times. And that's all I can think of for right now. This here, I make the textbooks myself for the students that I teach. And that's what you could actually do. Here's some reading for the students, grammatical structures, some questions for knowledge. There's a little bit of everything here. Who are these people? Telling time in English, all types of skills that they will need. Plus communication activities here where it's fun. And my students really love it. These are students who come to me privately. And they're good topics. Students love, they use their imagination, and you try to teach them a little bit of what really foreigners talk about when we're in a group. The conversations are quite different from a Japanese topic. If you have any questions, concerns, anything, feel free to go to our homepage. We'll put that on the video for you. And ask us as many questions as you need. Somebody from Blue Hill will definitely get back to you. Or we'll maybe post your question and the answer on the homepage in case others have the same or similar question. All I can say is if you do decide to come to Japan, good luck. Oh, and one final note. Keep this in mind, very important. Japanese school year starts in April. Graduation ceremony is in around the middle of March. So that means between January and March is when schools start looking for new teachers. So the best time to apply is usually around January. January is the best time to start checking the whole pages and look for and apply for jobs. Another thing to keep in mind is most schools and programs do not keep your resume on file. Now that could be a good thing and a bad thing. The bad is you would think you'd be first in line for the next year, but it's also a good thing because you can keep applying and most likely no one will know that you've been applying every year. And that's one thing. Don't get discouraged if you get turned down. There are a lot of Japanese owners, especially in private schools, who have their own rules and they won't tell you. For example, I know at least one or two Japanese owners who said they adamantly refuse to hire anyone but Americans because of the accent. So all of the teachers at his school are American. I know some as well, they just adamantly refuse to hire females. They said having an attractive Western woman in the class distracts the students, and the students can't learn, which is ridiculous because there are tons of female English teachers around the world. But that was their way of justifying not hiring certain people or groups. So don't get discouraged if you get turned down. There's lots of prefectures. And try to go outside of Tokyo. A lot of people try to get in Tokyo. Unfortunately, that's where most people want to be. So try some other places. And you can always bounce around Japan. You go to one school for a year or two, and then you just keep trying a different prefecture until you get to where you want to be. So there's other ways of going about it, about getting into the city. For me, I'm in the southern region. I'm on the southern island of Kyushu. That's where I'm videotaping you, right? Videotaping me right now. And if you are interested in learning Japanese culture, my best advice to you is definitely do not go to Tokyo, because Tokyo is inundated with foreigners, and a lot of Japanese kind of change their ways to better suit for the foreigners. If you really want to learn, actually down here, the southern island of Kyushu is your best shot at that, because there are very few foreigners down here, and Japanese don't really change their ways to kind of comfort the foreigner. They're going to do things the way they want to. They normally do it like Japanese culture. But then again, you can learn Japanese culture anywhere, everywhere in Japan. I'm just saying some of the better places or best choices. Okay, well, I think that about sums it up. So all I can say is we'll put the information we have on the video, as well as our homepage. Any questions, concerns, anything, let us know. And if you do get a job, let us know that too. We can share that with other viewers. It may help them. All right. If you do get to Japan, please let me know. Maybe we could go out for, I don't like coffee, so we'll go out for a cup of hot cocoa or something like that. All right? Well, I'll see you later, everyone.